Hi, I'm Amy Parsons, president of Colorado State University and host of the Next 150 podcast. We have so many remarkable people in our community, and this is where we're going to hear their stories. We're going to get their perspectives on CSU's next 150 years and gather their very best advice for today's CSU students. Let's get started, Rams. Hi, Rams, and welcome back to another episode of the Next 150. Today, we are joined by a Colorado legend, a true champion both on and off the field, none other than Pro Football Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, somebody who I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last few years. I think we met a few years ago at the Dancing with the Stars charity event.
Yes, we did. But first of all, you're one of the few people who start off saying it correctly.
Oh, yeah?
It's the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Pro Football Hall of Fame.
But most people want to say NFL Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most
so
people
I got it right,
say
extra points.
you got it right. So kudos.
Well, I appreciate that. We're off to a good start.
But let's go back to the Dancing with the Denver Stars.
Yeah, you were dancing that year. You did a great job.
Lord have mercy.
You
know
did a
what?
great job.
They were tracking me down for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And I swear. And every time I would see them, I would just tell them I have something to do. Like I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, you know what? Yeah, I was pushing them off. Number one, it was embarrassing. Like, who wants to?
I did it. I did it. I think the year before you did it.
Okay, but were you nervous though?
That night I was.
Yeah,
that night. Leading up to it was fun. Because Cleo Parker Robinson, like the dancers are amazing and you get to know them and you work with the pro. But then that night, getting on stage, I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, but it's like for me, I felt like I had a lot to lose and nothing to gain. There was just no upside to doing it.
Yeah.
And then I finally challenged myself after all those years, and I said, you know what? I'm 50 years old. Let's just do it. Let's just go out there and just challenge yourself to get better. My knee was a problem, and I was just hopefully this thing just holds up until it's over. And like one day during rehearsal, we're doing like one of these crazy moves. Yeah. And I ended up jamming in my knee so hard, and I was thinking I can't, and it swelled up on me. And so I went home, and I'm trying to get the swelling out. I'm icing it. It felt like I was playing a game again, getting ready for a game. But yeah, I came through. And then we just reduced the sequences. We didn't do anything very elaborate because I was supposed to pick her up and do all kind of stuff, and it was like
everybody loved it. I mean, you did awesome that night.
I appreciate it.
And I mean, it's one of my favorite charities. I never miss the chance to go to Dancing with the Stars and support Cleo Parker Robinson Dance. I mean, they're just an amazing asset to Denver.
It was fun. So I'm glad I did.
So thanks for doing that.
And I'm glad I did it because we got a chance to meet you. There you go.
That's where we met, and I met you, and I was like, we need to get you up to Fort Collins and see what we're all about at CSU, and that's kind of how all of this started. So we'll jump into that in a minute. I'm just going to say just a little bit more about you, not that you need any introduction to our listeners, but, you're one of the greatest running backs in NFL history and, 6th round draft pick who defied all the odds and obviously led the Denver Broncos to back-to-back Super Bowl championships and earned the league MVP and Super Bowl MVP honors and one of the 8 players to rush for more than 2,000 yards in a single NFL season, Pro Football Hall of Fame. And, our athletic director, John Weber, likes to say grit recognizes grit, greatness recognizes greatness. And just, your path, your journey to what you achieved, I think, is just the exact role model and the values that we want our students at CSU to learn, whether they're playing on the field, whether they're D1 athletes or, they're just students at CSU. It's such a great example. And so, we're grateful that you've served in this role as a Rambassador, being around our program all year, and you've done everything from going to football games to talking to our student athletes. And, I remember the first basketball game that you came to with us, and you were just so generous with your time of everybody just loving to see you and take pictures with you. And it's just been really special. So I just want to, thank you for being part of our community this last year.
You're welcome.
It's been really special.
It has been fun. It's been great. And I told you, coming up here for that basketball game, and I felt bad, too, because you guys, we were on a streak.
Yeah.
And I felt like when I came there, the basketball team lost. I was like, oh, Lord. Like, what did I bring? Did I bring the wrong juice and mojo here? But after that, I just felt like I was adopted into a family again. And I missed the college environment. I missed being on campus. I missed like the pomp and circumstances of like the band and
Yeah.
just student athletes and a faculty and just the whole campus environment. To me, it was fun to be reunited in that atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't have asked for a better, college in partnership with CSU, and coming up here just thinking to myself, like, the people here, they were just different. Like, you can tell there was a tightness, there was a strong community here, there was a loyalty to this campus, and it just felt right. And I just felt like it was the right decision. And I didn't want to force anything. And we've had our conversations over, and just every time we've talked or I made that visit, it just checked the box. Checked the box. And then your vision for what you shared with me and how you saw CSU moving forward is just aligned with things that I was thinking about. You talk about grit and toughness, and it was like, this community is that.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
and
the community embraced you too,
and
really
so
see that alignment for values and your history. And by the way, I think you were actually good luck for the basketball team, because they went on to win the championship, right? They won the league and went on to March Madness. It started off a little slow, but that was just maybe the boost that they needed to go on their great season.
Almost got to that. Sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been great, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, let's rewind a bit and talk about your journey and your love for football and sports and where that came from coming into your college career.
Yeah, it's funny because I just gave a talk to my daughter's elementary school.
Oh, yeah?
And I went back and I told them a story about a little guy, a little kid named Little T, and he was 6 years old. And I had to go back and recall how football became like how I fell in love with football. Now, here's the deal. I'm the youngest of 6 boys. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind.
Tough set of circumstances.
Yes, it is.
To start.
Yes, it is. And so my older brothers, they all played football, and I was 5 or 6 at the time when I started picking up on football, and we would play in the backyard and all that stuff, and of course they would beat me down, and I think they used me as a tackling dummy because I'm the smallest, and everybody would just run through me. And
you were the smallest? Well, I guess being the youngest.
I was the youngest, yeah. Yes. So I was small, so they would just beat me up.
You up.
Yeah, they toughened me up. And I just remember, I don't know, maybe my brain was sick, but I just remember loving that feeling. I just love that sort of the contact, and I love just trying to run from them and have them tackle me. And but yeah, I started loving it, and then I couldn't wait until I could play because I was only 6 years old. Yeah. At 7 is when you can sign up. So I would bug my mom and dad, like, I can't wait to play. And I remember the night before our first practice, got my pads the day before, and I remember going to sleep. I put on my shoulder pads, I put my helmet on, I put my mouthpiece in my mouth, and I swear to God, I slept in my uniform because I was so excited to go to practice the next day. And in my mind, I already knew I wanted to be a running back. That's exactly what I was going to be a running back. Straight up, and but it didn't start off well because what they did was when I got to practice, all the kids got there. First thing they did was line all the kids up, and they made all the kids run these little 40-yard sprints. And after the sprints, they took the fastest kids and they told them to go to the left. And that group of kids were all the receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, all the ball carriers. Group to the right were all the linemen. And that's where I were. I was over there with the linemen. I know. And I didn't understand. At first, I was like, why am I over here with all these guys? And then they finally came over and put us in, like, lineman formation and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, man. So I was a little disappointed in that. I wanted to be a running back. And that happened that entire year. Told the coach I wanted to be a running back. He told me I was too slow. I remember that he said, son, you're too slow to be a running back. And I was like,
oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that's what my coach said. So first year I ended up staying on the offensive line. Year 2 came back, and I was in my mind thinking, okay, I'm faster, I'm older, and now I can play running back. Same thing happened year 2. They split the teams up, and I didn't play running back. Until the third year is when I finally came back, and I wasn't fast enough that year, so I didn't make a running back again. So it was just almost like the same cycle. But the first game of the season, 2 of our running backs got hurt, and they were our 2 best running backs. Yeah, they got hurt. And so we had like 4 or 5 running backs, but the other guys came in. They were fast, but they weren't good. And so the coach, you can tell, like we ended up losing that game, and the guys were bad. So I was like, hey man, coach, I can play running back. I took him a shot, And you can tell he was a little reluctant because he's thinking, man, you're not fast, you can't play. But he really didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And so he put me in a running back. And that day was the day that my nickname after that, they called me Boss Hog.
No way.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was my nickname after my first game because I was running through kids, running over kids. I mean, they just couldn't stop me, and so I ended up becoming the starting running back from that point on. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the
the
day.
path.
That was it.
Right up to when you went to college, you followed your brother.
No,
I think,
no.
right?
So I've had so Amy, when I'm telling you, we talk about adversity and we talk about like a path. My path was not a straight line path. Mm-hmm. It's the most probably most improbable journey to become an NFL running back. Yeah. Because number one, at the end of that year, I started suffering from blindness. I've had nausea, vomiting, headaches, and I didn't know what was going on. This was when I was same year I just completed. And my parents didn't know what was happening, but every time I would practice, I would get these headaches and I would get sick, and that would happen a couple of weeks, and my mom finally took me to a doctor, and then when we went to the doctor, we finally was told that I was experiencing migraine headaches, and the doctor said I can't do anything for you. Like they had nothing that they can do to stop them, but he was like, the only thing I can do is recommend you not play football anymore. Wow. So think about that. I got a choice to make. I'm either play football with all these headaches or quit football. And in my mind, I did not envision myself without football.
Yeah.
So you can and I was like, all right, I have to make a decision. And I chose to go through the pain of battling the migraines. And I've had that since I was 9 years old, really to this day.
All the way through.
Yeah.
College.
Yeah.
Pro ball.
Now, and when I went to Georgia, when I finally got to college and finally got to Georgia, they had better doctors, neurologists, and so they were able to identify not only that I had migraines, but what kind of migraines, and they had medication that could help. It was nothing that like got rid of them, but they could help if they come, maybe shorten the process. They put me on some medication that, in some cases, if I take it in the right amount of time, I could stop it. But you have to be really precise on when you took it, and that wasn't probable. That wasn't practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about being at Georgia. That's not where you started, though.
No,
right?
No. I started at so when I got to high school, most people don't know this again. I didn't play running back in high school, so I quit high school. When I got to high school, my dad died, which was the biggest event in my life that just wrecked my world. Like, I didn't understand my dad dying. And it was, the biggest thing was I thought the world would stop. Like, I thought everybody would stop and say, hey, your dad died. We're going to make sure you're okay. It didn't. I woke up the next day and the sun came up. The school bus was going to school. Like, nobody cared. And I remember that sort of like that still is in my mind, that nobody, at least I felt that way. And it was kind of a lesson in life. Unfortunately, when things happen, no matter who you are, life goes on. Yeah. Like, life will not stop for you. And so thinking about that and using that, it kind of helped me to be a little bit more resilient. When things went bad, I didn't spend a lot of time looking for compassion. I wasn't looking for anybody to, come and feel sorry for me, and I couldn't because the world taught me a lesson. They're not waiting for you, and so I took that. So after I quit high school in my freshman year, I didn't play my freshman year or my sophomore year. I didn't play football at all.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had just given up on sports. I gave up on life, and then I had one incident where I was going down the wrong path because I didn't care about life anymore. And I was hanging out with the wrong people and ended up having a gun pointed directly to my head. That was a moment where I had to really think about.
In high school.
This is in high school, yeah. And this was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in a neighborhood that I shouldn't have been in. And I put myself in that situation, and that was my holy you know what moment. I come to Jesus, I'm like, all right, that was my scared straight moment. Almost immediately after that, think about this. I was flunking out of high school. Grades were terrible. I wasn't playing football. I was going down a path that I was like, wait a minute, how did I get here? And so it felt like a week after that happened, I reunited with my Papa Warner, the guy who called me Boss Hog. The guy who gave me the nickname. We had disconnected. He had moved to L.A., but he was back in San Diego. And we just ran into each other, and it was like God sent him into my life. And he said, man, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. You said, you're not playing football? No, I'm not playing football. And I was flunking in school. So being with him kind of reignited, or at least got my mind thinking, all right, you got to get back on the right path. My mom was working 2 jobs. She wasn't around. My brothers, they were all over the place. And so it was just a moment to finally get back on that path, at least get back to playing sports, right? To have that continuity in my life and to get back to something that I love doing. And so that's when I was at Morris High School at the time, and I didn't play for Morris, but the first thing I had to do was get my grades back, at least try to get them back up to where they were. I flunked out freshman year, so I was redoing those courses, and I felt like, you know what? I just need a new start because once people know who you are, it's kind of hard for them to get that person out of their mind. Yeah. And I said, I need to kind of start over. So I ended up transferring after my I guess it would be my sophomore year. I went to summer school, made up for my classes, and I went to Lincoln High School. And from there, it was a different world. Like I went to summer school, made up my classes, got on the track team, got on the football team as well. And then it just felt like I was back on track, doing something that I loved. I loved playing football. I felt I was making my mom proud because my grades were back up. But I wasn't playing running back. I was playing defensive line, and I play a little bit of fullback. And that's what I did in high school. And so when I didn't even get recruited by, you name a school. CSU didn't even recruit me. I mean, nobody recruited me.
Sorry.
And we've got a lot of people out of San Diego that was coming to CSU.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I was a no-star athlete coming out of San Diego. Yeah. And then I go to Long Beach State. I walk on to Long Beach State. And the reason I chose Long Beach State was because my brother was at Long Beach State. And it was close distance to home. They had just announced they were getting George Allen, who was a pro football Hall of Fame coach. He was coming in that year. And I tried to see if I can get a scholarship because I was playing fullback, and I sent them some tape. But most of my tape were as a defensive lineman. I'm only 95 pounds. Nobody's going to bring me in for that. So I remember them saying, hey, if you come here, we can't give you a scholarship right now, but if you work hard, then we can possibly give you a scholarship. And that was good enough for me. I just feel like, you know what? I get a chance to play close to home. Yeah. My brother's there. Let's go see what happens.
And then they closed the program.
Yes, indeed. So here's another haymaker. It's like every turn you get hit with one, bam. And because when I get there, it's the first time in my life that there's a possible chance that there's a connection between what I'm doing and the pros. I got a Pro Football Hall of Fame coach. And all of our coaches all played in the NFL. We had Willie Brown, we had Mike Davis, we had a guy named Cedric Harmon. They all played in the NFL. And so, and the way we practice, and then they would have scouts come up to our practice every day. I started to see wow, this is the closest I've ever been to it. And I remember one day at practice, we had just finished practice up, and I was on scout team. I had redshirted, so I was scout team running back. And then my running backs coach named Mike Davis, he brings me aside. He said, hey, one of the scouts, NFL scouts, he was asking about you. And we just told him, no, you was just a redshirt freshman. But that hearing that a scout, NFL scout, ask about me, I mean, in my mind, that told me that.
There's a path. Yeah.
I don't know anybody else, but I just looked at it like, if they had, like, why would they ask about me? Mm-hmm. So there was something I was doing.
They're smart because they saw something in it. They saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like, wow, that's interesting. Yeah. But then, I ended up starting the next year. I came into camp. I beat out a couple of seniors and juniors, and I became the starting running back as a redshirt freshman. But I got hurt in training camp. And then I came back 5 games after that, played in 5 games, got hurt again. And then that was the year after, after the season was over, we all got phone calls, or we didn't have email back then. No, there was no email. I don't know how did we find out? I don't know how we found out, but we had a team meeting, and that's when they announced that they were closing the program down. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
but looking back, that's what got you to Georgia, right? I mean, that's what set the path for where you ended up.
It was, and I do wonder if I had stayed there, whether I would have gone to the NFL. I believe I would have.
Yeah.
Just because I just told you about the coaching staff we had. We had pro scouts there, so I was on their radar. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer that the NFL will find you. Mm-hmm. If you're good enough, they will find you.
They'll find it. Yeah.
They'll find you.
They'll find you anywhere in the country.
Anywhere.
Right?
Anywhere.
Yeah, as long as you're playing.
As long as you're
out there playing.
100%. Yeah, you got to play, though.
Yeah. Talk about that last season for you before you got drafted to the NFL, and that kind of mind shift for you of how you were playing.
Yeah. I've told people this story before, that you go from Long Beach State, you go from a kid that wasn't highly recruited. I've never had the spotlight on me. I've never functioned where there were expectations on my performance on the field. I've never had that. Yeah. As a kid, nobody cares about me playing for VP. I was boss hog, but nobody cared. Mm-hmm. Go to college, no pressure. High school, no pressure. But when I go to Georgia, it's Georgia. Mm-hmm. It is Georgia. It is a big stage, a big deal. And when I got there, I was a sophomore backing up Garrison Hurst, who was a top 5 pick in the draft, running back. And so it was easier for me to transition into that spot because I'm the backup. Mm-hmm. I don't have no one. They're not expecting me to have big games. Garrison goes in there and he does all the dirty work. And when we're blowing a team out, I come in there and I just get, I'll give me some yards and look good. And that was it. That was a perfect world. Yeah. But I felt like I've worked really hard, and I thought I was ready for it. But then Garrison went to the NFL, and then the next year it was my turn. And I remember walking around campus, and I would see magazines, those little preseason magazines, and I'm on the cover of these magazines. And it's like the next big thing. And it's like, you got to be like, I guess it's cool, but to me it wasn't. I didn't want that. I wanted to go play and let my play do the talking. But it was already put out there that I'm the next big thing. And that was in not only the magazines, but that would be on whether it was a radio show, TV show, no matter what they were talking about. If they were talking Georgia football, my name came up. Mm-hmm. And it was like most people, like, yeah, he's going to be better than Garrison Hurst. He averaged, I averaged like almost 8 yards a carry when Garrison was there. But that don't mean anything because I had a fraction of the carries he had. And so they were doing the math, trying to extrapolate how great I was going to be. And to me, I thought that was just a mistake. I didn't want to have that. So I never felt comfortable. So my play sort of mirrored that. Mm-hmm. I was afraid.
Afraid of the greatness.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It felt like, people. I've said this after looking back. People always say like they have a fear of failing. I had a fear of being great, mm-hmm. of succeeding. I had a fear of success because I knew the expectations that came with that. I knew that the responsibility, obligations, the pressure that position held. And so I didn't want to be too good. I want to be just good enough to where I can play,
But without the pressure.
Without the pressure. And you just can't do that.
Yeah.
And that ultimately, in my opinion, led to me not being as good as I can be. And it was a rocky road. I got benched. I had injuries, and it was a terrible It was just a terrible time, terrible stretch in my career.
Yeah. So what shifted in your brain that really turned it on at the end of your career that the NFL saw you?
Well, there was a pivotal moment that I always go back to, and I was hurt, and I was we had a home game, and this particular game, for some reason, I had to sit in the bleachers
for your own game.
Well, here's the deal. The head coach and I, we didn't see eye to eye. We didn't have a great relationship.
Yeah.
And he did not want me on the sideline watching our team. And I'm about 4 weeks in a 5-week recovery. So I'm coming back soon. I tore my hamstring. So I'm coming back soon. I decided to go to the game. I go to the game. I'm sitting in the bleachers, and I'm watching our Georgia football. And it's just weird what my mind is thinking as I'm sitting way up there, so I can see everything. And I just like, man, God put me up here to give me perspective, and I think I really believe that. And I just started going through my head about all kinds of things. I'm like, wow, like I'm looking at the field, and you can't feel what the players are feeling, right? You can't. Like, you just think everybody's healthy, and you don't know if they're tired, or like you don't know. And that gave me an interesting, sort of an interesting perspective. Like, people don't care, whether you're hurt or not. They came in to watch a game, and you have to perform at a certain level. Mm-hmm. Like, again, back to my dad, no one cares about your ankle sprain. No one cares that you got a thigh contusion. No one cares your hamstring hurt. You have to play to a certain level. So I thought about that, and then it kind of led me to asking myself, have I really been pushing myself since I've been there? Because what dawned on me is that I only have 4 games left. If everything goes right, I have 4 games left until that's it. There's no more football in my future. I wasn't highly recruited. I mean, at that point, that was my senior year. There was no publications that had me, being projected, to be drafted high or even drafted at all. So I was like, man, I love football, but this is it. And so I kind of asked myself if I gave it everything I had, and the answer was no. And so I made this comment. I was like, you know what? I don't want to have regrets when I leave college. I don't. I want to be able to walk off the field the last game and say, I gave this game everything I had, because I wasn't giving it everything I had. So that became my purpose, my mission. I said, when I come back, I'm going to play this game like I did when I was a kid. I'm going to give it everything I got. Because the only thing I don't want to live with is that regret of saying, man, I could have did this. Man, I should have done that. And I see people like that all the time. It feels like it's daily. Yeah. I meet people who tell me they should have played in the NFL, but if this or but that. Mm-hmm. So I said, I just want to walk off the field, last game, senior day, with my mom, and say, you know what? I'm good. I'm at peace. If I don't play another down, I'm at peace. And that was my mission. So the next 4 weeks, when I got to practice the next week and I was cleared, that's what I did. Like, I just had fun. I found joy in playing again. And they put me at fullback, and so I'm blocking for, Hines Ward was a freshman. Mm-hmm. He became the starting running back, so I'm blocking for him. Amy, I don't care. I don't care how big you are. I'm just having fun doing it. And I found my joy again in playing. And I did that for 2 weeks, and then they finally came to me. My running backs coach came to me, and he's like, man, we've been watching you, and we're really impressed with what we've seen the last couple of weeks. We're going to move you back to halfback. You're going to be our starting halfback. Mm-hmm. And I was like, cool, good. And this time, instead of feeling like, oh, shoot, here we go, I was like, okay. And it was the first time I had really played with swagger, where I played with, like, the confidence that I know I had. Mm-hmm. And then the night before we played Auburn, they were on a 20-something game winning streak. They're the number 1 team in the country. We're going to play them in Auburn. And the night before we play them, we have our team dinner, and we have our meeting. And typically, the coach is speaking, that's it, we leave. Well, this time the coach spoke, and the meeting was about to end. I stood up and I asked the coach if I can talk to the team. And he said, sure. So I went up there and I talked to the team. Now, I have never done that in my life. And I don't know what compelled me to get up and say something, but I did. I felt compelled to do it. Did that. And we didn't win the game, but we tied Auburn. Mm-hmm. And I had arguably the best game of my college career, that game. And then subsequently we played Georgia Tech the week after, had probably the second best game of my career. Wow. And that was it, Amy. I had in that short period of time, I had accomplished what I wanted to set out to do. And I said I was satisfied. If that was the last time I played ball, I was good. And so I felt good about that.
It's such a good lesson to reconnect with that joy. I think about the first story that you told as a kid going to bed at night with your pads on.
Oh, man, with the mouthpiece in the house.
With the mouthpiece in, I've heard our coaches say that there are guys who like it, who love it, and who live it. And you're a live it guy, right? I mean, that's that story. It's always been part of that love of your life.
Yeah.
But through all of these different setbacks and all these times that you had to be resilient, and we all know how the story ended, right? I mean, going on to be the MVP, right?
Yeah.
And Hall of Famer is just an incredible journey. And I think there's so many valuable lessons in there for today's students and today's players.
Yeah.
So when you think back over that journey and you talk to today's players, what are a couple of those lessons that you pull out that you want them to know right now, right? As they're 20 years old and just now in it.
I think number one is recognize that greatness can come from anywhere and anyone. It's not a preconceived. It's not this thing that, people look at, great players, and I believe there's a thought sometimes that you were born to be great, like you were already chosen. I'm like, no. It's like I refer to you ever see that cartoon? It's like movie, the Ratatouille. It's like the rat can cook, and it's like anyone can cook. Yeah, it's like greatness can come from anywhere. And I remember looking back at, like in our locker room, if you would have said, hey, Terrell, at 20 years old, you're in the locker or meeting room, and identify 5 guys that you think that's going to be pros, like really good in the NFL. I could have named you 5 or 6 guys that I thought would have been really, really good, like locks. But I was the one.
Yeah.
I was the one. It was me, and there was probably 2 other guys that went to the NFL and had pretty good careers, but most of those guys didn't.
Yeah.
They went, but they didn't last. And so it's like the reminder is that there's greatness amongst all of us, and any one of us could be great, But if you have a vision for being great, if you build up, you got to have resilience. You gotta get gritty. You gotta do all these things. A lot of things have to go your way, but you should know if someone says there's greatness in this room, you should be like, okay, it's coming right. This
that's a great lesson.
Greatness is here.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you don't see it at the time, because it's hard to see it when you're going through all your struggles.
Yeah.
You're like doubt creeps in. You start to doubt your abilities and all that stuff, but just know that greatness can come from anywhere.
Yeah, and looking back, you had to be resilient so many times and build that muscle, right?
Yeah.
That served you all the way until the end. Well, thanks for being part of the RAM community and sharing that lesson. I mean, that's the lesson we want our students to know, and they look up to you as the role model in that. And I don't think I've ever met anybody who's faced as much as you have over and over again and risen above it and set the example for everybody behind you. So thanks for being part of the CSU family. Thanks for spending the time with me today.
That's right.
And we're just happy that you're here. So
thank you very much. Go Rams.
Go Rams. Yep.
Go Rams.
Thank you for listening. I'm Amy Parsons, president of Colorado State University, and you're listening to CSU's The Next 150, where we explore what comes next for CSU by chatting with change makers who are already leading the charge and shaping our next 150 years. I'm gathering their very best advice for today's CSU students. Stay tuned to wherever you get podcasts for our next outstanding conversation. Go Rams!